Today's goal is 100 berries. Smash that button to get that juicy fruit and hit subscribe for more amazing recaps. Now let's get into it. Kim is pouring out his soul to some AI bot, ranting about how his life's one long nightmare and how he absolutely despises his job. But guess what? He's doing it anyway, locked in by life. Does the robot care? Not a single bit. Like the forgotten middle kid in the family, Kim's totally ignored. The AI just lets him hang there, leaving Kim even more miserable. We find out the robot's name is Pax. Kim feels straight up betrayed, cause even Pax won't throw him a bone. Then, out of nowhere, another AI strolls up, tells Kim to get out of the way cause it's got a package to haul. So, Kim steps aside, lets it pass, and watches it take off. Kim's spiraling deeper in his funk, feeling like he's one step away from losing it completely. The dude needs real human connection, not a cold machine's glare. You wouldn't want your girlfriend to be a robot, would you? The scene zooms out to this massive Logitech warehouse, drones flying around, and robots handling every job imaginable. Packing, delivering, you name it. And there's Kim trying to manage all these machines barking orders. He looks up and thinks, man, I am in the wrong damn place. Now for the backstory. It all kicked off 2 months back, right after Kim got discharged from the military. He thought he'd finally made it out, but his relief was short-lived. His parents called to say they'd moved, ditched the old house, and paid 6 months rent on a new place for him. Go live your life, make some money, be a success, they told him. And that was the beginning of Kim's descent into his own personal hell. First, he was loving it. No parents to nag him, rent covered for a few months, and a little savings buffer. He figured he'd coast, maybe snag a part-time gig, meet some girls, live the dream. But life had other plans. Every cafe he hit up told him the same thing. Gotta have experience, gotta be handsome, or better yet, gotta be a girl. Dreams of smooth-talking girls at a cafe job? Crushed. So he kept applying for jobs. Rejections kept stacking up. 2 months later, his savings tanked, and depression kicked in. Feeling like a total loser, he messaged his sisters, hoping for some comfort. They just roasted him, calling him lazy. He's got them in his phone as Sister Number 1 and Sister Number 2. Real creative. But Sister Number 2 had an idea. She knew someone who could hook him up with a job at the biggest delivery agency around. That's how Kim wound up at Amazonia. He stands there now, looking up at all the machines and wondering how his life came to this. His partner is a hunk of metal, and he can't even get a decent conversation out of it. Just as he's getting lost in thought, his manager storms over, saying they're out of tuna cans, though the system shows the warehouse is stocked. Kim heads to check. He smiles, but inside, yeah, we all know how he really feels. He finds the cans, climbs a ladder, grabs a box, and as he's about to climb down, bam! A loud slam. Kim spins around, the 10-inch thick iron doors shut. Heart pounding, he grabs the handle, tries to yank it open, no dice. Panicked, he calls his manager, no answer. Should he dial 911? But he hesitates. Maybe it's just a tech glitch. He snaps a selfie, sends it to Sister Number 2, tells her he's stuck. She laughs, but then she texts him. A building outside her place collapsed. Now he's stressed. He tries calling her back, but she doesn't pick up. Just then, the ground shakes, and his phone drops. Alarms blare, and a robotic voice shouts for an immediate evac. Kim starts banging on the door, yelling, "I'm still in here." No response. 2 minutes pass. Desperate, he reaches for his phone, no signal. His mind races. Is there a war? Bombs dropping? He's piecing it together when he hears a thud from outside. The 10-inch door is bending like cardboard. Whatever's out there, it's not human. Hands shaking. He sits, terrified, praying for this nightmare to end. He convinces himself it's all a bad dream. 3 days later, he wakes up, still there. Out of food options, he grabs a box of tuna, chomping down. No network, no rescue. His battery's about to die. Then he sees it. A notification floating before him. You've been chosen. Check your awakened ability. Another notification tells him he's got a one-time power. Subspace. Kim, losing his grip on sanity, laughs, saying, "Guess I finally snapped." But, figuring why not, he decides to test it. Store the entire warehouse. Bam, the place vanishes. He stands up, staring at the sky, which has somehow turned yellow. Trucks flipped, his boss dead. And then the real nightmare steps in. a 15-foot orc, dripping with blood, towering over him, red eyes gleaming. Kim breaks into a run, heart hammering, thinking, not focused on me, not focused on me. If I run, maybe I can get away, Kim thinks. But as soon as he takes off, the orc lets out a thunderous growl. Kim glances back, and his eyes go wide. A full-blown monster orc is charging after him. Panic-stricken, he screams, running even faster. But his foot slips in his boss's blood and guts, nearly sending him sprawling. His mind races, trying to wrap around why a creature from some fantasy nightmare is after him. The orc is closing in fast, and if this keeps up, he'll be caught in seconds. Just then, a notification pings. Synchronization complete. You can now enter your subspace. The orc is just a few feet away. Kim yells, yes! And a portal opens in front of him. Just as the orc's hand reaches out to grab him, the portal pulls Kim inside. Standing in the strange space, eyes squeezed shut, he thinks, is this heaven? But when he opens them, he's shocked. The orc is still there, glaring at him through the portal, but it can't get through. With a mix of relief and confusion, Kim asks, why can't it come in? Just then, a drone flies over, explaining that no one can enter his subspace without his permission. Taken aback by how human-like the drone seems, Kim looks around and realizes he's in the logistics center he used to work at. Damn, I just unlocked Amazon's domain expansion, he marvels. Confused but curious, Kim asks the system if it really put the whole Logitech facility inside his subspace or if they somehow merged. The system confirms it's all part of his subspace now, with the robots moving as if nothing happened. Then, a new notification appears, announcing a reward for his first entry. A mana stone materializes in his hand. Before Kim can figure out what it's for, the orc slams against the portal, reminding him of the monster outside. The orc's drooling, bloodlust in its eyes, desperate to tear him apart. Panicked, Kim shouts, are you sure it can't get in? The system reassures him that nothing can enter without his permission. Then another system window appears, detailing the PAX Fulfillment Center, a 5-story, 33,000 square meter facility with every product imaginable, a 60 kilometers per hour shipping speed, and a 2-meter package limit. Kim mutters, what the hell does shipping speed even mean here? The system warns that only 2 minutes remain until maintenance mode. Wait, what? Kim asks, realizing he could lose power. The drone confirms this, adding that he can use the mana stone to keep everything running for 24 hours. Kim is floored by this efficiency, but the drone explains that the energy system was adapted to fit its new environment in subspace. So, this place runs on mana stones now? Kim asks skeptically, is this real or just sci-fi bullshit? But before he gets an answer, the lights go out and warning signals flash. The PX system chimes in, explaining that without power, all PX fresh products frozen and refrigerated items critical for survival will start spoiling. Glancing back at the orc still glaring at him, Kim realizes food is essential in a world like this. Kim feels a flicker of terror at the thought, but his focus snaps back when the orc slayer turns to him, curious. Choi explains that Kim is the one who saved them from the wyvern and used to work for PAX FC. He mentions that Kim's strong, having killed the wyvern with a thrown axe from a distance. Everyone's amazed, wondering what kind of ability Kim might have. Just then, a woman rushes up to Kim, thrilled that he saved Yong-soo and Choi, and even does a little happy dance. The others gather around, praising him, and Kim tries to downplay it, saying he was just doing what he had to. As the crowd forms, Choi tries to disperse everyone, telling them not to overwhelm the young guy. The orc slayer introduces himself as Lee Jinmok, the Amazonia Center manager. He explains that everyone here has been working together for over 10 years, with Yong-soo and Byung-chul like family to him. He bows, deeply grateful to meet someone who saved his friends. Once the pleasantries are over, Jinmok gives Kim a rundown of the place. He mentions that while they can't guarantee total safety, it's still far more comfortable than the outside world. Thanks to the logistics center, they have food and water, so Kim should feel free to make himself at home and eat as much as he likes. Jinmok says they have plenty of supplies and can fetch more from the center if needed. However, Yong-soo interrupts to reveal the logistics center has suddenly disappeared. The group is left wide-eyed and in shock at this absurd news. Jinmok quickly asks what that even means. Choi confirms it's true, saying the place is literally gone, which is why they were chased by the wyvern. The others refuse to believe a building that size could just disappear. Finally, Jean-Mok admits that if monsters can be real, then maybe a building vanishing isn't so far-fetched. Meanwhile, Kim stands silent, wondering if the logistics center's disappearance has something to do with his subspace. The manager tries to keep everyone calm, saying they need to dig through the tunnel. Staying here will only worsen their situation. He encourages everyone to stay focused, saying their time to act came a bit earlier than expected, and they'll start moving through the tunnel soon. The woman from before rallies the others, reminding them that even without the logistics center, they need to think about their next steps and must force their way through. Turning to Jean-Mok, Kim asks what forcing our way through actually means. Jean-Mok explains that everyone here has homes elsewhere and vehicles are essential for travel. But with the roadblocks, they're trapped. The north is blocked by a golf course, containers block the east, and the southern expressway is destroyed. The tunnel to the west is the only way out, but unfortunately, a group of wyverns controls it. Until now, they've survived by retrieving food and water from the logistics center, but they'll now need to break through the tunnel. The manager tells Kim he doesn't have to go through the tunnel since the blocked roads are for vehicles, and there are other ways to escape on foot or by bike. Kim quickly responds that he'll need a vehicle too and thinks it's best to take the tunnel route. The manager doesn't argue and simply says Kim's welcome to join them if he's up for it. Kim grins, saying he'd be glad to work with them. However, he thinks it's better to keep his abilities hidden for now. The group seems kind, but he can't forget that they've been struggling to survive while he was safe in the center. They may not be fully transparent about their situation, and he's prepared to stay on guard. He then turns to the manager, saying he wants to check out the tunnel and the wyverns. His scouting mission is really a chance to use his powers to wipe out the monsters and gather some mana stones. Flashing back to earlier, he recalls taking down several monsters, earning him 5 mana stones, enough to cut his shipment cooldown to 5 seconds. He then sees 3 new abilities: Precise Delivery, which guarantees a hit; Simultaneous Delivery, which allows shipping of 2 items at once; and Automatic Delivery, which sets intervals for items to ship. Each ability costs 10 stones, and Kim is excited to test them, though he's not quite sure what Automatic Delivery fully entails. Back in the present, Kim is beaming, ready for his mission, or so he thought. His excitement fades when he realizes Yong-Soo is tagging along. Kim asks why, and Yong-Soo insists it's too risky to go alone. Kim reminds him he was the one being chased, but Yong-Soo shrugs, saying he's confident Kim will save him again. Kim remembers Yong-Soo mentioning an awakened driver's ability, so he asks if Yong-Soo has seen any message windows or hints of his skill. Yong-Soo says he hasn't but has a gut feeling it's real. It just hasn't fully awakened yet. This isn't entirely comforting, and Kim feels a growing sense of worry. As night falls, Yong-Soo's bike zooms down the road. Kim clings on, sweating, as Yong-Soo steers with one leg, barely keeping balanced. Kim asks why he's driving like this, and Yong-Soo explains he can't see much with all the abandoned cars on the road. Suddenly, Yong-Soo spots a wyvern ahead. Kim tells him to stop, but it's too late. The monster has already noticed them. Just then, a projectile whizzes through the air, hitting the wyvern and taking it down instantly, leaving Yong-Soo speechless. Kim, calm as ever, tells him to focus and not look back, slyly retrieving the mana stone and storing it in his subspace. Seeing the tunnel up ahead, Yong-Soo slams on the brakes, but before Kim can ask why, he sees what stopped the May horde of monsters fills the area. Yong-Soo is terrified, realizing there's no way they can outrun them all. Kim knows he has to use his subspace, so he quickly spends his mana stones to reduce his shipment cooldown to 5 seconds. Yong-Soo is confused, but Kim doesn't explain. The monsters close in, and just in time, Kim shouts, "Ship!" A projectile lands, taking out the lead monster. Yong-Soo, still anxious, glances back to see a massive portal with Kim standing in front of it, ready for action. Kim's fully engaged now, using his mana stones to upgrade his subspace 6 times, cutting his cooldown to 5 seconds. Pax explains further cooldown reductions need more mana stones. As Kim retrieves more stones from the downed monster, he tells Yong-Soo to stick close to stay safe. Yong-Soo, still unsure, nods and follows, eyeing the logistics center that seems to have appeared out of nowhere. More wyverns attack, targeting Yong-Soo. Kim opens his subspace as a shield, blocking the assault and saving him. The monsters keep coming, slamming against the barrier. Caught off guard, Yong-Soo stumbles back, but Kim retreats into his subspace, letting the monster crash into the barrier. Then he hurls an axe, taking it down in one hit. Young-soo, in awe, watches Kim's abilities in action, seeing him as more than a man as a god. As they regroup, Kim reflects on how, for the basement group, the tunnel is vital to survival. But for him, it's just a means to an end. Young-soo, feeling a tinge of jealousy, wonders why Kim, with all his powers, even bothered helping him in the first place. Suddenly, they see the monsters retreating. Kim smirks, impressed by their instincts. As Kim collects mana stones, Young-soo spots a blue stone hovering and asks about it. Kim, surprised, realizes Young-soo didn't know about mana stones and explains he uses them to enhance his abilities. Young-soo wonders if he'll ever get to try one himself. Young-soo, still piecing it all together, notes that with Kim's powers, he could probably clear the whole tunnel solo, so why bother coming down to the basement and meeting everyone? Realizing he's been found out, Kim lets out an awkward smile. Misinterpreting that look, Young-soo thinks Kim came down just to scavenge their resources. Kim quickly sets him straight. No, I just wanted to see if there were people I could trust in this mess. Clearing the tunnel wasn't my plan. I just wanted to check if it was even possible. Feeling a bit sheepish, Young-soo apologizes for doubting him, but Kim waves it off, adding with a grin, "Honestly, I didn't even know the way to the tunnel, so if I'd gone alone, I probably wouldn't have made it. You were more help than you think." Then Kim suggests they head back now that the wyvern seems to have retreated, though who knows when it might strike again. Young-soo, still on edge, hesitates before asking just how far Kim's planning to go if he actually needs a vehicle. Kim explains he's trying to reach his family, with his final destination in Wajongbu, near the Gangnam district. Hearing Gangnam, Young-soo's eyes go wide, and with a trembling voice, he admits he's headed to Indioquan, which is on the way. "If it's not too much trouble, could I come with you?" he asks, clearly anxious. "My family's there, and I don't think I can make it on my own." At first, Kim isn't sure how to respond, but Young-soo persists, saying he's not confident he can get there safely alone. "My driving ability's not much help in a fight, but with you, we'd have a real shot at making it through." He promises to help Kim reach Gangnam faster than anyone else and even offers to provide food along the way. Seeing value in the partnership, Kim realizes Young-soo's driving skills are solid, and having him on his side could ensure no one else finds out about Kim's abilities. After all, if word got out, who knows what others might do, maybe even try to take him out, though that could be paranoia. Better safe than sorry, though. Finally, Kim agrees, and Young-soo lights up like a kid at Christmas. Kim tells him he'll handle the tunnel and reminds him to keep his abilities under wraps. He also asks him to make sure everyone stays out of his way. Young-soo eagerly agrees, promising to keep everyone cooperative. But Kim's plan goes off the rails quickly when Young-soo announces to the entire group that Kim can single-handedly clear the tunnel with his awakened abilities. They just need to wait outside until he's done. Then they can safely follow. Kim is left dumbfounded, wide-eyed as he watches Young-soo spill everything that was supposed to be a secret. The group is astonished by this revelation, buzzing with excitement to see how Kim will pull it off. Young-soo, beaming with pride, enthusiastically explains, while Kim curses his luck, realizing he's in a tight spot now. With no other option, Kim steps up and assures everyone that by tomorrow morning, the tunnel will be clear for them to pass. He reasons that helping them might be his best move since they still have food supplies, which should keep things calm for now. But once those supplies run out, chaos is sure to follow, so it's wise to clear the path and ensure they can leave safely. Just then, the manager approaches Kim, saying he won't pry into his abilities, but respects him for his decision to help. He even offers Kim food supplies from their reserves as a thank you, which surprises Kim. The manager explains that since Kim risked his life scouting the tunnel and is now offering to clear it, they want to show their gratitude, even if it's just with a bit of food. Kim tries to downplay his actions, saying he did it for himself, and insists the supplies should be saved for the group's families. But Young-soo steps in, insisting Kim accept the food, reminding him that he has family to think of too. As Kim watches everyone eagerly planning their reunion with loved ones, he feels a pang of sadness, not wanting to let them down. The next day, they arrive at the tunnel entrance. Kim tells everyone to stay back as he starts pedaling into the darkness, determined to clear the way. As he gets closer, he spots the lurking monsters, and the scene flashes back to his childhood. Young Kim, sporting a sore eye from fighting with his sister, complains to his dad, leading to another scuffle between the siblings. Watching them, their dad reflects on how lucky they are to have each other, saying he'd always envied the bond of siblings. Just then, their mom enters, and a playful argument breaks out between the parents, filling the room with laughter. Kim feels the warmth of family, a feeling that sticks with him even now. Back in the present, Kim recalls these memories while watching everyone eagerly anticipate their own family reunions. When midnight hits and everyone's asleep, Young-soo wakes up to use the bathroom and notices Kim is gone. He asks the guards if they've seen him, and they say he went out for fresh air a while ago. Searching further, Young-soo finally spots Kim, only to be stunned at the sight of a vehicle packed to the brim with food and supplies. Astonished, Young-soo asks why Kim's giving away so much. Casually, Kim explains it's only half the load to avoid weighing down the vehicle, and there are still plenty of supplies left. But when Young-soo realizes it's the last vehicle, it dawns on him that Kim must have packed up the other 15 vehicles just as fully. Kim quickly tells him to keep it a secret from the others. Young-soo, overwhelmed, points out that if Kim's given away so much, what will they use on their journey? Kim reassures him they still have plenty left. Realizing just how massive Kim's stockpile must be, Young-soo is left speechless, wondering how much Kim still has stored away. Meanwhile, in the tunnel, Kim is plowing through monsters like it's nothing. He thinks how much easier it would be if he could just store everyone in his subspace and carry them to safety. Unfortunately, his system reveals that with his current subspace level, it's impossible. At level 2, however, he could bring up to 20 people, but it would take 100 mana stones to reach that upgrade. Doing the mental math, Kim counts only about 40 monsters, which won't be enough to level up here. Kim knows he needs to find a way to level up, especially if he ever wants to bring his family into his subspace for safety. Suddenly, he spots something unusual among the fleeing monsters, a jacked-up version of a wyvern. This one is massive, clearly a boss-level creature, and even Kim isn't entirely sure what he's up against. Outside the tunnel, everyone anxiously waits for Kim to emerge, whispering concerns about his safety. Finally, they see him pedaling out, calm as can be, with his uniform splattered in blood but a relaxed smile on his face. The group erupts in celebration, relieved and overjoyed at the successful completion of their mission. As they prepare to part ways to reunite with their families, they thank the manager for sticking with them until the end. Kim hints that if they encounter trouble, they should check the cargo hold. He's left a little gift for them. Curiosity piqued, the group eventually loads into their trucks and drives away, crossing the tunnel before waving one last goodbye. Riding shotgun in the passenger seat, Kim is still preoccupied with thoughts of the boss wyvern he glimpsed. Was it the leader of the wyverns or simply a fully grown version? His musings are interrupted by a crunching noise under the truck, where bodies lie strewn across the road. The driver's face reflects the regret of hearing bones snap beneath the tires, and Kim, sensing his friend's sadness, shares a quiet moment of empathy. But they have no choice. The road is littered with obstacles, and it's chaos no matter where they turn. Kim realizes that, had his discharge been delayed a mere 3 months, he might have been one of those soldiers lying dead. Suddenly, Young-soo snaps him out of his thoughts, pointing out that the road ahead is blocked with barbed wire, likely a military setup. He suggests they'll need to find another route, possibly a bridge. Just then, Kim spots a creature on the blocked bridge, a type of monster they've never seen before. It's clear now what the military was trying to block off. While Young-soo starts to panic and thinks about turning back, Kim sees this as the perfect opportunity to level up his subspace. He notices a narrow sidewalk blocked on both sides and tells Young-soo not to turn around but instead to take the vehicle onto the sidewalk. Young-soo, shocked by the seemingly insane idea, hesitates, especially when an orc appears, scattering a pack of mutant hounds that turn their aggression on it. Despite the orc's size and strength, the sheer number of hounds overwhelms it. As they watch the brutal scene unfold, Young-soo nervously questions Kim's plan. To calm him down, Kim brings up an old game, StarCraft, where players defend against monster swarms by using strategic positioning and terrain. This current situation reminds him of that game map. Though Young-soo doesn't understand the reference, Kim assures him that all he has to do is follow his lead. Kim instructs Young-soo to back the car up to the barbed wire. The noise draws the attention of the hounds, still busy tearing apart the orc. With his system activated, Kim unlocks the auto-ship skill using 10 magic stones, then tells Pax to increase the shipping speed to 100 kilometers per hour. Now fully prepared, Kim taunts the hounds, drawing them in with the promise of an easy meal. One by one, the hounds rush forward, only to be blindsided by a heavy refrigerator crashing down on them. In mere moments, Kim racks up 12 magic stones, watching in satisfaction as the hounds are crushed by the barrage. With his upgraded shipping range and speed, he switches from sending refrigerators to axes. Combined with his precision delivery skill, it's a devastating combination. But Kim quickly learns that while precision delivery adjusts slightly to follow targets, it doesn't fully track them, which could be an issue with the hounds, who are not only fast but lightning quick on their feet. At 100 kilometers per hour, even an axe could be dodged if he's not careful. Kim steels himself, knowing that to clear the path, he'll need all the speed and strategy he's got to handle these agile, relentless monsters. These creatures are relentless. They won't back down, even when one of their own drops right beside them. Given the situation, with only 2.5 seconds between shipments, axes won't cut it against this onslaught. But the fridge? It's a game-changer wide enough to take down multiple hounds in one hit and heavy enough that even a glancing blow sends them flying. Plus, the auto-delivery system, which Kim just upgraded, does all the work, targeting any threats that get close without him needing to lift a finger. The hounds keep charging, howling in frustration as they're mowed down by a steady stream of airborne fridges. They don't stand a chance. And when Yong-soo sneaks a glance back, his jaw nearly hits the floor. He thought Kim only had axes, but now he's seeing fridges hurtling through the air every 2 seconds. The sight is so unbelievable, he starts wondering if Kim's logistics center has an endless stock of appliances. Could it really be that these fridges are being replenished as fast as Kim's throwing them? Dumbstruck, Yong-soo is frozen in awe until Kim taps him on the shoulder and casually asks if he wants something to eat. Coming to his senses, Yong-soo asks cautiously if Kim's supplies are truly unlimited. Kim, a bit amused, thought Yong-soo would have figured it out by now, but it turns out he hadn't. Yong-soo had assumed Kim was simply retrieving used axes to conserve resources, never imagining his stash was infinite. Kim admits he does collect the axes so they don't clutter the battlefield, but it's hardly necessary. Still, Yong-soo is floored, grappling with the idea of endless supplies. When Kim asks again about food, Yong-soo, feeling a bit overwhelmed, just requests a Coke Zero and a donut. They sit and eat quietly while fridges continue to decimate the hounds in the background. Yong-soo is a little embarrassed by his earlier doubts, but he's grateful for the food even if it's endless. Kim just smiles, happy to share, and thanks Yong-soo for trusting him from the beginning. Yong-soo realizes that Kim's generosity goes far beyond snacks, and he's hesitant to take advantage. After all, Kim has already cleared the path and made the journey to his home safer and faster. With the bridge behind them, Yong-soo estimates it's only about an hour until he reaches his family. Kim is glad to hear it and reassures him that he'll get home soon. Despite his excitement, Yong-soo can't shake his fear of what he might find there. Kim understands all too well, knowing the worry that comes with not knowing the fate of loved ones. Looking at Yong-soo's ragged appearance, Kim suggests he freshen up before seeing his family. With the hounds still occupied, they have a bit of time to find a fitting outfit for him. Reluctantly, Yong-soo accepts, and Kim helps him pick out some aviator glasses and a cool jacket perfect for a top-tier driver braving the apocalypse. Finally, the last few hounds are dispatched, and with his new look, Yong-soo feels a newfound confidence. Revving the truck, he takes off at a breakneck speed, maneuvering down the broken roads with the skill of a pro. Kim barely has time to brace himself, yelling at Yong-soo to slow down as he's tossed around like a ragdoll. In just 20 minutes, they arrive at what's left of Yong-soo's home. He stares out at the ruins, trying to convince himself that the buildings were already old. But as he stands before his door, fear paralyzes him. What if his family isn't there? What if he finds their bodies inside? His hand shakes, unable to turn the handle. Kim, understanding his hesitation, steps up and offers to open the door. Yong-soo, eyes welling with tears, finally nods, letting Kim take over. Just as Kim reaches for the handle, the door swings open. There, standing in the doorway, are Yong-soo's wife and daughter. His wife calls his name softly, and his daughter cries out, "Daddy!" Tears flow as they all embrace, holding each other as if they'll never let go. Kim watches from a few steps back, giving them space to reunite. Through sobs, Yong-soo's wife explains that she heard voices outside and saw him through the peephole. His daughter, still clinging to him, blurts out, "Dad, I hate you." Why did you make me wait so long? After a while, Yong-soo remembers Kim, introducing him as his friend and protector. Before he can say much more, though, Kim's vision blurs, and suddenly he collapses. Yong-soo calls out in panic, but Kim can't hear a thing as exhaustion finally takes him. He hasn't slept in days, and the world fades to black as he falls into a deep sleep. In his dream, he feels a pillow smacking him in the face, only to look up and see his older sister wielding it like a weapon. She swings again, and Kim, half asleep, shouts in confusion, wondering why she's hitting him so hard. Ouch! That hurt! Kim whined, rubbing the spot where his sister had hit him. She just rolled her eyes, totally unbothered. Seriously? That was a soft hit. You're such a crybaby. Unfazed, she shrugged it off while Kim, fuming, stormed off to find their dad and tattle. But as he stomped away, his sister stood there, pillow held high like a champion, proclaiming herself the pillow fight champion of the month. Suddenly, the scene shifted to a different day, with Kim's dad sitting down between him and his younger sister, mediating one of their usual sibling arguments. He spoke gently, reminding them that family, as frustrating as they might seem at times, was precious. One day, you'll realize just how lucky you are to have each other, he said, emphasizing the love buried in their daily squabbles. Moments later, their mother burst into the room, scolding their dad for not helping with dinner as she had asked. Kim's mom was on a mission, but before long, the whole family was gathered around the dining table, laughing, sharing stories, and enjoying a warm meal together. Their mother then turned to Kim's older sister, Soil, raising an eyebrow. Soil, always on that phone. Got a crush, do we? She teased. Soil, flustered, stammered that it was just her friends texting nonstop, claiming it was normal middle school stuff. Kim's dad joined in, mentioning Soil's interest in boxing and suggesting she check out a sports club nearby. Soil smirked, admitting the only reason she picked that school was because of the boxing club. Kim's ears perked up at the mention of middle school, and a year later, he enrolled in the same one, excited to follow in her footsteps. But instead of the new friends and fun he'd expected, he found himself targeted by bullies, mocked, and beaten. He never fought back, just took it, day after day. One day, though, Soil showed up, fierce as a storm, catching one of the bullies by the hand and breaking it with a single punch. Kim's relief was short-lived as Soil turned to him, unimpressed. Starting today, you're training with me? She declared, setting him up for grueling sessions that toughened him up until no one dared mess with him again. For a while, things felt normal. Kim made friends, enjoyed school, and even had time to game on his PS5, while his younger sister eventually landed a job at a nursing school, surprising both him and Soil. But then came the day his dad walked in, telling him it was time for his military enlistment. Kim, putting on a brave face, tried to play it cool, but inside, he was terrified of leaving his family. The memory faded as Kim's eyes slowly fluttered open. He was disoriented, lying in an unfamiliar bed, trying to piece together where he was. He remembered meeting Yong-soo's family, then darkness. But everything beyond that was a blank. Suspicious, he instinctively opened his portal, pulling out a heavy axe, just in case. But then a soft, polite voice snapped him back to reality. He turned, startled, to see Yong-soo's wife and daughter at the table, watching him curiously. Realizing where he was, Kim stashed the axe away quickly, hoping no one had noticed. Yong-soo's wife explained that he had collapsed and been asleep for hours. Just then, she thanked him, her eyes filled with gratitude, expressing how deeply grateful she was that he had brought Yong-soo back safely. Kim, unused to such heartfelt appreciation, felt awkward and tried to downplay it, but her sincerity cut through his usual bravado. At that moment, Yong-soo himself woke up, groggy but adamant about backing up his wife's gratitude, praising Kim for everything he had done. Yong-soo insisted Kim had gone above and beyond, and to him, Kim was a hero. But then his wife shifted the mood, announcing that it was time to eat. Kim's stomach growled in agreement, realizing he hadn't eaten in forever. With a goofy grin, Yong-soo mentioned he'd refused to eat until Kim was awake, saying it was only right they eat together. Laughing, they sat down to share a meal. And just like that, bam! The scene cut to a steaming bowl of kimchi stew in front of Kim, his stomach ready to tackle the feast. The sight and aroma of the kimchi stew in front of him made Kim's mouth water. Just the smell alone brought back vivid memories of his mom, warming his heart in a bittersweet way. It wasn't fancy food. Young Soo's wife had admitted she didn't have a lot of ingredients to work with. But for Kim, it didn't matter. Nothing could beat the comfort of kimchi stew, especially after everything he'd endured. As he took his first bite, the flavors exploded on his tongue, the warmth spreading through him like fireworks. Every cell in his body seemed to wake up, recharging him from the inside out. It was more than a meal. It was a reminder of home, of simpler times spent with his family. As he finished eating, Kim felt a pang of sadness. This was the first home-cooked meal he'd had in 3 months, and it reminded him how much he missed his family. Young Soo, noticing his quiet mood, shifted the conversation back to their journey, mentioning Gangnam as their next stop. Kim paused, caught off guard by the plan. Young Soo explained that he'd already discussed it with his wife after everything Kim had done to help him reunite with his family. It was only fair he returned the favor by helping Kim reach his own. But Kim was skeptical. Even if Young Soo drove him to Gangnam, how would he make it back safely on his own? They stepped outside for a moment, and Young Soo outlined his full plan. He'd drive Kim to Gangnam and, in exchange, Kim would leave his electric bike with him. Once they reached Gangnam, Young Soo would use the bike to safely navigate his way home. Relieved, yet still uneasy, Kim finally voiced his lingering question. Why was Young Soo going to such lengths to help him? With a warm smile, Young Soo responded simply, "Why did you help me first?" That answer hit home. Young Soo explained that, without Kim, he wouldn't have survived the tunnel. Now, he wanted Kim to feel the same joy he'd experienced in reuniting with his family. And if things got too dangerous, Young Soo promised he'd retreat, his driving skills ensuring he'd be safe. The sincerity in his eyes convinced Kim, and he finally agreed, but on one condition. If Young Soo was coming with him, he had to bring his family along. Kim revealed that he'd upgraded his subspace and could now bring others inside for the journey. Young Soo, looking both shocked and impressed, donned his shades like a true gangster, grinning in approval. With his family secured in Kim's subspace, they marveled at the sheer scale of the Logitech Center stocked with endless supplies. Pax, the AI from the Logitech Center, introduced himself and offered his services, leaving Young Soo's wife in awe at the seemingly infinite resources available. As Kim prepared to leave them to enjoy the comforts of his subspace, a new message appeared in his system. A laboratory option where he could combine and transform items at will. This opened up endless possibilities, adding another layer to his already formidable abilities. His mind raced as he imagined how far he could go with these upgrades. Each level of his subspace unlocked new, unimaginable powers. And though he was tempted to see what other worlds he could conquer or items he could store, Kim knew it was best to focus on the journey ahead. With renewed determination and the lingering comfort of home-cooked stew, Kim had one final, outlandish thought, storing the entire Earth itself in his subspace. A wild idea, no doubt, but with his newfound powers, anything seemed possible. The system prompted him for confirmation, and Kim, with a bit of apprehension, confirmed the action. He waited, tense, but after 2 minutes of nothing, a notification popped up. Failure. Earth was outside the storage range. Kim sighed, half expecting it wouldn't work, but he'd had to try. Just then, Young Soo appeared, talking about their route to Gangnam. Kim listened but quickly asked why he wasn't playing with his daughter like he'd promised. Young Soo smiled warmly, explaining that his daughter, who had always been on edge in the building, finally felt safe enough here to fall asleep, all thanks to Kim. Gratitude radiated from him, and Kim, humble as always, reminded him that Young Soo's driving skills had been just as crucial. Without a second thought, he ordered Pax to store the entire Joint Commander Communication Headquarters. Ugly Fatso hadn't a clue what was going on. 1 second, he's sitting in his chair, barking orders, and the next, the entire military base disappears around him, leaving him stranded with nothing but his chair in the middle of a barren wasteland. By the time he realized what had happened, Kim was already gone, vanishing into his portal. At least he'd been kind enough to leave the guy a seat. All around, Fatso's henchmen were left gawking, gripping their rifles, staring at the empty sky, trying to process that the entire base had just vanished. Fatso sat there in shock, his eyes darting around, barely able to comprehend where his kingdom had gone. Meanwhile, Kim spat on the ground, noticing a trace of blood. That sucker punch from Fatso must have done some damage, leaving him dizzy and barely able to stand. Storing the entire base had drained his mana to the core, and now he was feeling the aftermath, his strength sapped down to the dregs. He swayed on his feet, regretting not ducking into his subspace to recover beforehand. But it was done now. His only priority was getting back inside to rest. Just as he slipped away, the sky above turned a menacing shade of red. Fatso's men froze in terror as shadows filled the sky. The wyverns were back, hundreds of them, screeching and ready to tear anything in sight to shreds. Panic set in, scattering the henchmen like flies. Even the guy who'd locked Kim up bolted, leaving Kim free to drop into his subspace unchallenged. Meanwhile, Fatso was yelling, trying to rally his men, barking that they could still shoot down the smaller ones. His men didn't listen. They were too busy running for their lives. Fuming, Fatso cursed them as traitors, but a massive thud behind him made him spin around, his face draining of color. Towering over him was a wyvern like none he'd ever seen. A colossal 20-foot monster, its black scales glinting in the crimson light, its deadly gaze locked onto him. Fatso, too full of himself to recognize death staring him in the face, muttered about his new enhancement ability, bragging he could punch through boulders. He swung a punch at the wyvern's thick hide, but it didn't even flinch. Meanwhile, Kim had made it into his subspace, bringing an injured soldier with him. The system pinged, asking if he'd allow an outsider, and with a weary nod, Kim approved. He could barely hold himself up, his mana reserves completely drained. Young So then mentioned something unusual. Kim's subspace had expanded dramatically. Leading Kim to a vantage point, he showed him what looked like an entire cityscape sprawled across the landscape. Kim had thought he'd only stored the base, but it seemed he'd taken the whole military compound, city and all. Both men stood in awe, Young So's jaw nearly hitting the ground. Kim realized he had to map out this newfound domain, figuring out where to find weapons, ammo, explosives, and vehicles, everything needed to survive the apocalypse. As Kim started exploring, he felt like he'd struck gold, only to realize that this sprawling city was no easy feat to manage. Unlike Pax's automated logistics, he'd have to track down each item himself. But with a slight grin, he knew he'd figure it out. He'd come this far, and with this massive city at his disposal, he was ready for whatever came next. Kim looked around, realizing that if he needed anything here, he'd have to go fetch it himself. The task of mapping out every corner of this vast place hit him hard. While he mulled over his strategy, Pax AI materialized out of nowhere and, with a casual tone, corrected him. The base, Pax explained, wasn't like a typical storage facility. Since it had merged with his subspace, it was now effectively part of the Logitech system itself. Kim nearly choked. Pax continued, clarifying that he could treat this base just like the Logitech Center, summoning any military gear, vehicles, or ammo right to his side on command. Kim stared in disbelief, his jaw practically on the floor. Pax confirmed that once the synchronization was complete, Kim would have unlimited access to all military supplies. He could barely contain himself. This was game-changing. Still buzzing with excitement, he pressed Pax for details. How long would synchronization take? Pax admitted it was a colossal task and only 0.81% done so far. No clear timeline yet, but then Pax suggested prioritizing specific items to make them available sooner. Without hesitation, Kim listed his essentials: rifles, ammo, grenades, vehicles, and fuel. Once he had those, he'd be unstoppable. Pax assured him that the synchronization of these items would be done in 10 minutes flat, giving Kim unlimited access to everything he'd need for full combat mode. Feeling a surge of confidence, Kim asked Pax about a lock system to ensure that only he could access the base's assets. Pax confirmed with a simple yes. Kim immediately ordered everything to be secured, glancing toward his portal. He trusted Young Soo and his family, but wasn't so sure about the soldier they'd rescued. With the power of endless supplies, vehicles, and weapons at his fingertips, Kim took one last look outside, hoping the chaos was manageable. But as the scene shifted, reality hit hard. The wyverns were tearing through everything, picking off Pighead's crew one by one. It was clear this battle wasn't cooling down anytime soon. Inside his subspace, Kim and Young Soo prepped for the fight. Young Soo, donned in his old boss uniform, looked ready for action. Kim, gripping his M416, locked and loaded. They stood in front of a massive box loaded with endless ammo, and Young-soo glanced at it with a mix of nostalgia and anticipation. It had been years since he'd held a gun, and he never thought he'd be back to firing rounds like this. Kim reassured him each box packed with 10,000 bullets, duplicated from his stock, so jams or breakages were no issue. He gave Young-soo a grin and a little challenge, asking if he still remembered how to shoot. With a smirk, Young-soo picks up his M416 and says, "Watch this, Kim. I'm about to show you how a real marksman does it." He takes aim, breathes out, and bang. Every shot lands perfectly, dropping wyverns left and right. Headshot after headshot, he takes down over 50 wyverns in no time. Half an hour later, his rifle is red hot, smoke hangs in the air, and the floor is littered with bodies. With adrenaline pumping, he laughs, saying he hasn't felt this alive in years. Thinking they've cleared the area, Young-soo suggests they're ready to move on, but Kim's face remains tense. He's got a gut feeling something's still out there. Kim warns him, saying he spotted a massive black-scaled wyvern earlier. Young-soo's skeptical, seeing nothing else around. But as we zoom out, hidden in the shadows just beyond the portal, the black-scaled wyvern lies in wait, silent and fierce, like it knows exactly where they are, ready to strike the moment they step outside. Young-soo peers out, still not seeing anything. For a moment, he thinks Kim might be overreacting. But then Kim suggests that maybe the dragon is lying in wait, hidden, ready to pounce. The wyvern seemed almost intelligent. Young-soo agrees, noting that in this world, being cautious isn't just smart, it's necessary for survival. Then he gets an idea. What if we use a remote-controlled car as bait? He asks. Would the beast go after it? They decide to give it a shot. The scene shifts, and both of them now hold remote-controlled cars, each topped with a doll to look like a human decoy. With a deep breath and a countdown, they send the cars rolling forward. The dolls zoom out of the portal, mimicking people stepping into the danger zone. Within seconds, the massive wyvern swoops down, tearing into one of the dolls with its claws, shredding it to bits. Young-soo's jaw drops. He hadn't expected it to actually work. He watches in terror as the beast rips the doll to shreds, its teeth flashing in the light, each one the size of his own body. Then the wyvern turns, its blazing eyes fixed on the portal. Without a second thought, it lunges, slamming against the barrier, trying to force its way inside. Kim's heart skips a beat, and he yells at Young-soo to start firing. Together, they unleash every round they've got, filling the room with white smoke as they hope it's enough. For 15 straight minutes, they pour ammo into the beast. As the smoke clears, their worst fears are confirmed. Those glowing eyes are still there, locked onto them. The wyvern, undeterred, pushes closer, drooling as it tries to devour the portal itself. Kim and Young-soo stumble back, horrified, seeing the wyvern's enormous teeth just inches away. Young-soo is stunned. "How is this thing still standing?" he mutters. Kim remembers what Pighead had said about a similar wyvern that even the military couldn't handle. This must be the same one, he realizes, and it's not just tough, it's protected by some kind of ability, an awakened power that makes it nearly invincible. Kim doesn't have time to overthink. Grabbing a couple of grenades, he hurls them right at the wyvern's open maw, muttering under his breath, "Let's see if that hides grenade-proof." Each explosion roars, filling the portal with smoke. But Kim and Young-soo don't let up. They keep lobbing grenade after grenade, each blast followed by an enraged shriek from the wyvern. After an hour of non-stop bombardment, their shoulders burn from the relentless throwing. Young-soo, panting, complains he never thought throwing grenades could wear him out like this. Kim's arm feels ready to pop out of its socket. Yet there the wyvern sits, calm and focused on the portal, as if their attacks were nothing more than a minor inconvenience. They're stuck. This creature is guarding the exit like a sentinel. Out of frustration, Kim watches as the wyvern claws at the portal, only to be stopped by its unique properties. Finally, with an almost dismissive snort, the wyvern turns away and flies off. Young-soo, relieved yet confused, wonders aloud why it left. Kim guesses it got bored of waiting for them to make a mistake, deciding instead to find easier prey. They wait an extra hour to be sure it's really gone before daring to move forward. The scene shifts as they get back on the road. Young-soo, visibly shaken, mutters about the horror of that giant wyvern. Kim feels the same dread. Those grenade blasts barely left a mark. If that beast could brush off such heavy firepower, what in the world could take it down? Regular explosives, he realizes, just aren't going to cut it. Grenades are designed for human targets, not giant dragons. Kim briefly considers pulling a missile or rocket launcher from his subspace, maybe even a bomb, but that much firepower would decimate the surrounding area and likely hurt innocent people. He can't stomach that idea. Losing his humanity to take down a single beast isn't worth it. Frustrated, he racks his brain for an alternative, something powerful but controlled. Then, a thought strikes him. Maybe something small and dense, dropped from a high altitude, could do the job. But a military tank? Too clunky. The Wyvern would dodge it easily. He needs something compact, heavy, and devastating. But it doesn't exist. Just as he's about to resign himself to his current arsenal, he checks his magic stones out of curiosity. When he glances at his crystal, he's floored. 314 magic stones. He remembers barely managing to get 50 stones after taking down dozens of orcs and goblins. But wyverns must yield a lot more. With this many stones, he starts to think of upgrades. Without hesitation, Kim invests 100 stones into his subspace upgrade, expanding his shipping range to a staggering 50 meters and boosting his capacity to ship 4 items per second. His abilities are growing stronger than he'd ever dreamed. And with 189 stones still left, there's one more tool he hasn't explored yet: his Pocket Dimension Lab. It was a feature he'd unlocked during his last upgrade but hadn't taken the time to explore. Curiosity fully ignited, Kim decides to activate it. Turning to Young-soo, Kim says he needs to check out something crucial in his subspace, suggesting Young-soo take a break. With a grin, Young-soo points out they're almost at Gangnam with no monsters in sight, so he'll keep driving while Kim explores. When Kim hesitates, Young-soo assures him that if he goes into his portal, it'll still move along with the car as long as he's behind the wheel. Intrigued, Kim slips into his portal and, sure enough, it follows them as they drive. Inside the lab, Kim is greeted by a vast, empty white space. The system explains that he can now combine multiple items into one or break them down into their essential components. Kim's mind races. Could he combine a rifle and magazine for an endless ammo feed? Pax confirms it's possible. Next, he wonders if he could create a grenade that explodes on impact by removing the safety pin in storage. Pax gives the green light, so Kim requests a modification, spending 15 magic stones. When he sees the result, he's thrilled, but he knows it won't be enough against the wyvern. He needs something far more powerful. An idea strikes, and with a sly smile, he starts crafting his secret weapon. Meanwhile, on the road, Young-soo encounters an unexpected obstacle: a mountain of cars stacked like a barricade. Who the hell made a car wall? He mutters, right as Kim reemerges from his portal. Through her tears, he chokes out, "How did you make it here? Are you hurt? Are you okay?" Kim, equally emotional, struggles to reassure her he's fine. From a distance, Young-soo watches the heartfelt reunion with a warm smile, whispering to himself, "Thank God, Kim's sister is safe." After a moment, Kim and Joo-hee finally embrace, holding each other tight, both crying, letting the world around them melt away for a brief, precious moment. When Kim finally collects himself, he introduces Young-soo, explaining that he's the one who helped him get here safely. Young-soo bows respectfully, and Joo-hee, deeply grateful, introduces herself as Kim's sister, thanking Young-soo for keeping her brother safe in this nightmare world. Then, with a small, mischievous smile, Joo-hee reaches into her pocket. She teases that she has a little something for Kim, knowing he probably hasn't eaten much. She pulls out a chocolate bar and hands it over, but Kim stops her with a chuckle. "I'm good, sis. I've got enough chocolate to last a lifetime." His expression then turns serious as he mentions a patient in critical condition. Instantly, Joo-hee's face shifts to concern, and she insists on seeing the patient right away. Kim explains, however, that the patient isn't in the car, he's in Kim's subspace. Joo-hee's jaw drops, eyes wide in shock. You have an ability too." Kim nods, revealing he unlocked something called subspace, a hidden dimension where he can bring in anyone he chooses. Kim chuckles nervously, glancing around. "It'd probably freak people out if they saw it," he says, suggesting they find a more private spot. Joo-hee agrees, noticing the crowded space around them, and suggests heading inside the hospital for more privacy. Slowly, Kim, Young-soo, and Joo-hee make their way into the building, and the scene inside is nothing short of heartbreaking. Kim's gaze sweeps over the room, people clinging to makeshift weapons, hollow-eyed, emaciated, sprawled across the floor like lifeless bodies. After navigating through, they finally reach Juhi's private chamber. Young-soo closes the door behind them, leaving just the three of them in the room. Finally, Kim opens the door to his subspace. The instant he does, Juhi's jaw drops, her eyes widening in disbelief as she stares at the vast, city-like area in front of her. What is this? Are all these buildings part of your ability? She gasps. Kim reassures her quickly, promising to explain later, and urges her to follow him. They head to the room where Kim has been keeping the injured soldier. Juhi immediately kneels by his side, assessing his injuries. Kim, still anxious, asks, "What do you think, Juhi? Will he make it?" With a serious expression, Juhi asks how long he's been like this. Kim explains he's not entirely sure but suspects the man was beaten and tortured, his condition dire when they found him. With a grave look, Juhi warns that he might not survive for long. Kim and Young-soo freeze, their hopes dimming. But then Juhi's expression shifts. She smiles, and her hands begin to glow with a green aura. "Good thing," she says confidently, "that I've awakened as a healer." She places her glowing hands on the soldier's chest, and the light spreads over his entire body. She warns them that her skill level is still low, so full recovery won't be possible, but she assures them he won't die. After a few minutes, the soldier's breathing steadies, and his wounds begin to close. Juhi explains that although it's not a full recovery, he's stable and will need food and rest to regain his strength. Kim's face softens, and he says, "Sis, even if the world's ending, you're still treating people, just like you always said you would." Caught off guard, Juhi blushes, laughing nervously. "Why bring that up now?" she mutters. But Kim, undeterred, repeats her words from childhood. "Even if the world ends tomorrow, I'll still treat the sick today." Embarrassed, Juhi snaps, "I should have disciplined you like our other sister did when we were kids." The siblings bicker playfully, easing the tension in the room. Once they calm down, Juhi turns serious again. "Now spill it. What's been going on?" Kim takes a deep breath and explains everything: how he got trapped in the storehouse, sent messages to Juhi and their other sister, and watched as the entire network went down. He tells her about unlocking his subspace ability, accidentally storing the entire Logitech center, and merging with the PAX AI. He recounts meeting Young-soo and their journey here. While he explains, Juhi scarfs down a meal as if she hasn't eaten in days. Annoyed, Kim sighs, "Are you even listening, Juhi?" She nods, mouth full, insisting she is. "All right," Kim challenges. "What did I just say?" Distracted, she fumbles through a half-hearted summary, missing most of the details. Kim groans, but he can't help but laugh. Young-soo's wife, who prepared the meal, introduces herself to Juhi, who beams and says, "Nice to meet you. I already love you." They all laugh together, and Young-soo's wife tells Juhi that if she's still hungry, there's plenty more in the fridge. She then tells Kim she's prepared a bed and set up the staff room on the first floor with supplies, suggesting he get some rest. Kim tries to thank her, saying she didn't have to go to so much trouble, but she just smiles, saying it's the least she could do after everything Kim has done for them. Juhi, still curious, turns to Kim. "So, how did Young-soo and his wife even get into your subspace?" she asks. Kim groans, exasperated. "Juhi, I just told you the whole story." She shrugs nonchalantly, so with a sigh, Kim dives back into the recap. After that, Kim starts explaining his future plans. "I'm going to bring our entire family into my subspace," he says. The first step is already complete with Juhi safely inside. Next, he plans to find their other sister, who's in Area 0. At this, Juhi's face changes. With a serious tone, she apologizes and explains she can't leave, she has to stay here. Shocked, Kim asks, "Why would you stay in such a dangerous place, all by yourself?" Juhi sighs, acknowledging the danger but explaining that it's not just about her. There are patients here, and though other nurses can help, she stops mid-sentence as the scene shifts. Across town, a shadowy figure watches Juhi and Kim's building from a window, muttering that he saw two newcomers arrive in a military jeep, and he's heard about a loud crash outside at the car wall. "A jeep took down the wall?" he wonders aloud, puzzled. Another voice chimes in from behind, speculating that one of the newcomers might be Juhi's younger brother. We finally see this watcher's face ugly and menacing. His companion, sounding hopeful, mentions that if one of them is indeed Juhi's brother, they might not be hostile. Maybe they're just looking for food and shelter. With control over supplies, we could leverage him if needed, he suggests. The ugly man's face hardens, and with a smirk, he asks, "Do you really think those two are stronger than you?" Just then, a 7-foot muscular figure steps forward from the shadows. His veiny, dead-eyed body resembles a living corpse. The muscular man assures his boss that it's unlikely anyone could best him. The boss instructs him to go greet Juhi and her brother, to extend a welcoming front while ensuring the car wall gets repaired. The muscular man nods, adding that he's doubled the height of the wall, making it impossible to break again. Back with Kim and Juhi, she begins to explain more about the department head, Jean. She tells Kim that Jean has an awakened ability allowing him to control minds and poison others. Kim's expression grows deadly serious. She goes on, explaining that Jean has managed to control most of the awakened people in the area, placing them as guards over the food and monostone supplies. Because of this, people in Juhi's building are starving. She's been secretly stealing monostones to strengthen her healing ability, hoping to cure the poisoned and mind-controlled residents. She insists on staying to help them, asking Kim to go rescue their parents instead. But Kim firmly refuses. Juhi, frustrated, argues, "People here have no food or water, they're going to starve." Kim, sounding annoyed, cuts her off. "Did you even listen to the story when I told it to you a second time?" Juhi looks confused, so Kim crosses his arms, closes his eyes, and coolly asks, "The main weapon Jean has is control over food, right?" She nods. Smirking, Kim says, "Then solving this problem is going to be a piece of cake." He tells her to watch his awesome ability in action. Juhi cringes, muttering, "Oh no, it's like his middle school phase all over again." But before she can finish, her jaw drops. Out of Kim's subspace, piles of meat, vegetables, water, and supplies begin pouring out, filling the room from floor to ceiling. The episode ends with Juhi and everyone else staring in shock at the sudden bounty. Yep, Kim's just discovered the ultimate infinite food glitch. Thanks for watching, guys. Comment Flamingo and subscribe for the next part.